You gain the skills to match the effort that you need to overcome that obstacle, to overcome that difficulty. And just like, again, let's use a Mario example. Every single level is a new boss, there's a new thing that comes out, there's a new thing, new challenge. You then gain that experience. Then on the next level, that thing you've learned is still there. They've then added something new in. Welcome to the Prime Life Project podcast, a place to help you unlock your full potential, both mentally and physically, to become the best version of you. Welcome back to another episode of the Prime Life Project podcast, a place to help you both mentally and physically become the best version of you. I'm your host, Daniel James, and today it is just me, myself, and I. And for those of you that are watching the video on Spotify or YouTube, you'll notice that I've changed location again. I'm in the new studio, the new podcast studio. So if you're listening to this just on audio and it sounds slightly echoey, I do apologize. I've literally just moved in yesterday. There's a brick wall next to me. All the walls are bare. But if you remember the first time we did the podcast on video, it got better and better and better, and I added those wooden panels behind. So now I've got a decision to make. Do I go back to the wooden panels? Do I get a bookshelf? Or do I try something new? That is the current first world problems that I'm dealing with. But again, the addition of the new brickwork I think looks really, really good. And the space we've got here is absolutely incredible. So if you don't follow me on social media, Daniel_James_Fitness on Instagram, you'll see a whole host of things about how this got built, because it's an amazing space here. Again, just a real nice little hub for the Prime Life Project while we're getting ourselves ready for the next projects moving forward. So just talking to Mikey about what I can do to make the space even more podcast friendly, about having some lights on the wall to get rid of any sort of wire and stuff like that. So I think it's going to look absolutely mint. And like I said, the more guests we get here, it's going to just, it's going to be amazing. So watch this space, essentially. So I'm not actually sure when I'm recording this, because I'm recording this before I go on holiday. So I'm not actually sure when this is going to be released. So you're either going to have had a podcast before this, or the last podcast that you had is going to be with Betty. And again, that was one that I think me and Mikey both agree was an absolutely incredible episode, and that's something that's really, really stuck with me. And we're going to definitely, I think, bring it back on again, because the conversation I had with her, it's just helped me reflect on my own life and just consciousness, and just again what it actually means to be human. I think it's absolutely fascinating. And when we spoke off air, she went even deeper. I made it very clear before we started the episode I didn't want us to go crazy deep, just scratch the surface. But I think there's so much more there, and hopefully you guys appreciated where I was trying to go with that, because my whole thing with this, when it comes to spirituality and all that's my bag. That's what I believe in. And again, for me, that's my belief. And I'm just trying to pass this information on to you guys, just to try and get you guys to ask questions. That's all I want. I want to just give you guys a new perspective on things. I'm not trying to tell you how to think. I'm not trying to tell you what you should do at all. I never do that. Even when we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about the law of growth. So the law of growth is something that I've been reading myself personally. So for those guys that do or don't know, I've been reading a really, really old book. I've been reading it for months. And basically the whole premise of this book is, I would say months, literally months. I've been reading it since before Christmas. You basically read a chapter and you keep rereading that chapter for an entire week until the information's sunk in, and then you move on. That's what the book tells you to do. And this particular chapter on the law of growth, because of all the stuff that's gone in my life recently, which again, I keep alluding to, and again, still not going to talk about it. Keep you guys hanging on. I probably will never talk about it, but it is what it is. My point in saying that is that this one chapter on law of growth, because of everything that's gone on, I have reread it for the last month, literally the last 4 to 5 weeks. I've been rereading it over and over again, because the information was so profound and it was helping me through this time. I really just sort of kept gravitating towards it. And I shared this again on a recent Friday Night Live that I do with my clients every Friday, live workshop. I did this last Friday, actually. So it's fresh, it's new, and I just wanted to get it out there for you guys, because it kind of ties into things nicely. But as I've said before, I'm never trying to tell you guys to think, how to think, what to do. I'm trying to just expand the horizons and basically get these guests on. So it's not just the same old people saying the same old things. I want to put some information out there that gets you guys thinking and ask some questions that people kind of don't really want to talk about. So that's where we're at with that. So the law of growth is what we're talking about today. So I just want to start off with a quote from Tony Robbins. So you guys may have heard me talk about this time and time again, where I say life happens for us, not to us. Life happens for us, not to us. Now, that is a quote that I use all the time. I've used it in multiple podcasts. I use it on the radio when we're there, Mikey and Dan and Aaron as well. But it's actually a Tony Robbins quote. I just kind of shortened it down. So the actual quote is from Tony Robbins, and it says, if we can realize that life is always happening for us, not to us, game over. All the pain and suffering disappears. So again, I don't want to say that every time I say that quote. So I say life happens for us, not to us. But that's essentially it here. Once you understand that all the pain and suffering in our life is happening for us to help us grow, it's happening for us. But we again spoke before that victim mindset is happening to us. And again, it's really easy and understandable when this stuff's happening, because again, let's be honest about this. Some horrible stuff does happen, and it's very hard in that moment to be like, oh, it's happening for me. And I think in some situations, it'd be very, very foolish and or stupid of you to think that way. But if we can, as quick as possible, reflect on that and say, right, this was happening for me. Why did this happen for me? What is this trying to teach me? Because once you do that, then there's nothing bad that can happen to you. Because even if something bad does happen to you, if your instant response is, this has happened for me, how can I grow from this? Then nothing can stop you. No one person, no one thing, no one situation, nothing can stop you ever. And as Tony Robbins says, game over. So here, all experiences in life are for our benefit. We gain strength from these experiences in proportion to the effort that we put in. That's a key thing here. We gain strength from the effort that we put in. So the experiences that happen to us, we only get stuff if we're willing to do the research, only if we're actually looking to gain something from it. If we're just like, oh, okay, there's something in here. Okay, I suppose I learned this. Like you're kind of half-arsing it. You're not going to get what you want out of it. You gain the strength from the experience in proportion to the effort you put into it. But you're only given, but only if we give up what we no longer need and accept that we require. So let me say that again. Only if we give up what we no longer need and accept what we require. Now, the biggest thing is I talk about this when it comes to pairs of shoes. Like again, I'm reading this from my presentation, so excuse me when I'm again my writing and my dyslexia. The way they're liking this, and I think it was a guy called Grant Cardone a while ago, sort of gave me this. He didn't give me personally, it was at a workshop I was doing. He basically said that when people come to see him, they've basically got a bin, and they've got a bin full of old rubbish. And basically what they're coming to him for is this new shirt. The problem is if you don't get rid of the old stuff, when you put this new shirt on top, like it's just going to get absolutely ruined. So what we need to do, we need to exchange the old for the new, for the good, for the better, so we can obtain what we lack. Because the problem is, if we're holding on to things, we can't obtain it, because we're holding on to this thing we've already got. So the way that I liken this is to a pair of shoes. So this whole analogy here, to sort of summarize this up. If you've got a wardrobe that's full of shoes, you have to get rid of a pair of shoes in order to get a new pair in that wardrobe. You can't hold on to the old shoes, no matter how sentimental they are to you, no matter how much they've helped you in the past. They helped the old version of you. If you're holding on to a pair of shoes that you had when you were 12 years old, that is not going to help you right now as an adult that needs to fit in a pair of walking boots to go hiking. You have to get rid. You have to hold on. The problem is we don't want to. You can't obtain what you lack if you're trying to hold on to what you currently have. You just can't do it. If we hold on to worn out, useless material, we allow a deficit to exist, and therefore we don't obtain new material for growth. You have to create that space for the growth. If you're holding on to this old thing, this old belief system, these old things that have held you, they may have served you in the past. I'm not saying it's necessarily a bad thing, but you have to understand, in order for you to grow, by definition, there has to be space for you to grow into, which means you have to get rid of some of the old and then replace it with the new. And it's one of the things here, like, we always think in life we have to add. In order to grow and get better and be successful, we think, oh, we've got to add, more. No. We have to remove some things. You have to remove some people. You have to remove something, because once you then remove that, you create the space for it to grow. Really, really important. I don't think enough people talk about this actual removal of things. And I've used this Bible quote before, this biblical quote. And again, when we spoke with Betty, this is why I like this. So this quote here is from Matthew and Luke. You can't serve two masters or opposing states of consciousness at the same time. So you can't serve two masters. That's the Bible quote. Again, digging into that, basically these two masters, the masters are opposing states of consciousness at the same time. So building on what we spoke about with Betty, these two states of consciousness, taking your attention from one state and placing on the other, you die to the one from which you have taken it and live and express the one which you are united. So you've got this old version of you, the old version of you and the new version of you. You can't serve two masters. You can't be both at the same time. If you're currently broke and you want to be rich, you can't have the broke mindset. You can't be the broke person and be rich. If you're currently fat, overweight, and unhealthy, and you want to be fit, healthy, and in shape, you can't do the two at the same time. It is impossible. You can't serve two masters at the same time. Again, like we said with Betty, this whole thing is, the information is there. You just have to dissect it. You have to be open to listening to it. You can't serve two masters at once. You have to let the old version of you die. And with some clients, genuinely what I've done is I've told them to write a letter to their old self. So clients that are bigger, clients that are really struggling, I've said, you need to write a letter to the old version of you. It's served you, it's kept you safe, it's protected you in some way, shape or form, but it's time to let go. Set yourself some time and have a breakup with yourself, because that's what you have to do. The thing is though, there's going to be a dance. There's always going to be a dance. Like when you start off on this new journey, again, not just talking about fat loss here, in anything, you're going to start off with loads of momentum. Again, you can be absolutely buzzing, loads of energy, enthusiasm. And what's going to happen is this new version of you is going to come to the forefront. Then what's going to happen is it's going to hit the first obstacle. And the first obstacle, you're then going to shoot back, and that old version of you is going to come back, because that's what was there to protect you. This is when we talk about consciousness and being present. You then have to be aware that you are then doing this, and this is how you then learn and grow. You have to understand, this is not serving me. How can I learn from this? And we spoke about this on multiple podcasts again. Pain plus reflection equals progress. When you do fall back into that old version of you, that is going to be painful. That is going to suck. That is going to hurt. Just like when the last podcast with Mikey on, where we spoke about the positivity paradox. When you fall from first place to 10th, that is going to suck. You have to then reflect, what has happened? Why have I gone back to my old default setting? You then reflect, and then you grow. This is how it works. So all these things I'm talking about now, I'm trying to layer them on, which is what I do with my clients. I can't give you all the information at once. No one can. And as I said, I'm not trying to tell you what to do. I'm making you aware of these things because it makes perfect sense. The only things I talk about are things that really resonated with me and helped me in my life. And again, this is why I kept rereading this book. I'm like, this makes so much sense to me. I'm trying to hold on to something that now no longer serves me. That was what was causing me the pain. I had to let go in order to allow me to actually grow. So instead of fighting against the evidence of the senses, claim yourself to be what you desire to be. As your attention is placed on this claim, the doors of the senses automatically close against your former master, which again is yourself and your identity. Because remember, where your attention goes, your energy flows. Where are you placing your attention? Are you placing it on the old version of you, the old negative version of you? Folks, I can't do this, I can't, I won't, it's impossible, blah, blah, blah. Because again, that's where your energy is going. Because your attention is focused on the negative, the things that you can't do. Let's try and flip that. Let's try and reframe that. Let's focus on the positives, this new empowering version of you. So I'm going to go back to the Buddha wheel. Again, everyone that's seen my tattoo, again, I've got the Buddha on my arm. So again, Mikey to ping this up on the screen at the end here. But we've spoken about this on multiple podcasts, multiple times, because again, it all layers on top of each other. So we've got this identity, this I am statement. Your identity leads to your thoughts, which then become beliefs over time. Because remember, beliefs are just thoughts we keep telling ourselves. So we have these thoughts in our head, we keep thinking them over and over and over again. These thoughts then become beliefs. And again, a belief is something that has no factual proof. If it had factual proof, it would not be a belief, it would be a fact. That is the difference. A belief has no factual proof. So your identity, these I am statements, these are the labels. I'm dyslexic, I'm fat, I'm stupid, I'm no good, I'm never going to amount to anything in my life, I can't do this, I. All these labels that we wear. That then leads to our thoughts. So again, negative identity, negative thoughts, which then lead to negative belief systems. You believe the world is against you, you believe that you can't succeed in the world. These then lead to your feelings and emotions. So again, if you've got two negatives, you're not going to feel great. Your feelings and emotions are going to feel bad. You've then got the thing that the Buddhists call the gap, which is your chance to change before you take action. Because if you don't know what you're thinking, how you're feeling will tell you. Because you can't be thinking of positive thoughts like bunny rabbits and unicorns and feeling negative unless you're petrified of unicorns and bunny rabbits. You can't do it. So what you need to do before you take action, ask yourself, how are you feeling? Again, emotional intelligence. That's what this is. You're in tune with your emotions. You're very, very, very present. You're mindful. You've got the ability to understand how are you actually emotionally feeling, because then you can do something about it. Again, we've got these emotions and feelings that then lead to actions. And again, the actions then lead to results, and then they confirm your identity. So we've got negative identity, negative thoughts, negative feelings, half-hearted action, half-hearted results, which then confirms to you the identity that you had. So in order to grow, we have to take responsibility for every single thought and action that we have in our life. We have to take every responsibility. Now, you can't control your thoughts that pop up. It's impossible to control your thoughts that pop up. I'm not saying do that, because you can't. It's like whack-a-mole. I think we have something stupid. I literally can't remember. I might get Mikey to Google for me how many thoughts we actually have in a day. But again, it's a lot of thoughts. I have a lot of thoughts in there. I'll get Mikey to put up on the screen at the bottom. We have a lot of thoughts that go on in a day. So it's impossible to take control of these. But if you've got the awareness of what you're thinking, again, meditation, mindful meditation, you gain the awareness of this, you can then start to understand, because you're taking responsibility of the thoughts and then the actions. So when you notice a negative thought pop up, you can then take responsibility, and then you can imprint a new positive thought or idea. So I spoke about this before. How do you destroy darkness with light? So when you have a negative thought, The way you destroy that is by taking your attention off the negative thought and think of something positive. That is how you destroy the darkness. The negative thought pops up. You have the emotional intelligence and you have the awareness, you have the presence to notice that negative thought. You don't allow yourself to emotionally get hooked and involved in it. You then change your awareness, you change your attention, and you start to think of something positive, and you go down that rabbit hole. Again, it sounds really, really easy and simple. It's not. It is hard. It takes practice. But these are the core principles of this. Because new thoughts, new ideas lead to new choices lead to new feelings lead to new actions lead to new results, and then over time, this is when you create this new identity. This is where you grow. This is where the growth happens. But again, as we said, you've got to take that responsibility. And that's one of the hardest parts. Actually taking responsibility. Take responsibility for your actions, good or bad. Because again, it's really easy. It's very easy for us to criticize ourselves when we take negative action. Very, very easy. There's also a flip side to this as well. When you do something good, take responsibility for it. Own it. Actually have the ability to say, yes, I did that. Again, I literally today, earlier on today, I've just come back from London to doing a client photo shoot. And she had to take responsibility for, yeah, I looked amazing. And that was so hard for her. Even the photographer noticed this. And again, this is someone I've been working with for a long, long time. But again, it's so easy for us to notice the negative rather than the positive. When you're absolutely there, absolutely shredded in a photo shoot, it's easy to fall back into old habits because it's an unusual environment. It's a first photo shoot. So here's someone that we've been working with who, again, on the surface, very, very mentally strong. We then put them in a new environment, and then the old belief system wants to come back up again. Started picking up the words they were using. No. Like, again, you catch it, then you do something about it. It's also important here to remember that you've been thinking a certain way for potentially decades, and that you aren't going to be able to undo this overnight. Just like when you pull a weed from the ground, it can survive a few days with no life source. Again, I spoke about this before. You pull that weed up. So again, a weed in the ground, you pull it up. The life source is the soil, the roots down to the soil. That's its life source. But when you pull that weed up, it will survive for a few days without that life source. Just like this old identity, just like these old thoughts and feelings, they will last for a little bit because they've been feeding on you for decades potentially. So if you're starting something new, whether you're working with a coach or a therapist or anything along those lines, understand it's been decades, absolute decades, and you're expecting to undo it in a week, 2 weeks, even a month, even a year. Think of how long, like let's say you're 30 years old. I'm going to be 33 next week. Actually, by the time this podcast goes out, I will be 33. Potentially, yeah, I will be 33 by the time this podcast goes out. That's interesting. That's a weird little thing to think about. Talking to my future self. Hello. So again, it's understanding with this that, so I'm 33. I'm hoping to live until my 70s, 80s. So I'm not even halfway through my life. So what is 2 years in the grand scheme of things if it's going to allow me to live the rest of my life actually more at peace, more present, more aware, more being the version of me that I want to be? This is why I'm so passionate about this topic, because this is what I want for myself. I want to create this future version of myself. And again, I really, really wish that I had some ways of showing you guys the old version of me. I really wish I could. Because it's definitely not this guy that's sat here in front of you, and it's bizarre. And I wish I could find some clips or videos or something like that. I may have to actually go on a rummage on my old iPhone and see what I can find, just to sort of show you guys the kind of person I was. Because it's not this guy. It's not this guy. I've purposefully put my attention on becoming this version of me because I was not happy. I wanted to become a better version of me. I didn't want to spend my life as that old version. But as we elevate ourselves to a higher, broader version of ourselves, we gain a remarkable ability to actually know what we require. The body knows. The body knows what we require. And again, let's talk about the cosmic consciousness that Betty spoke about, this universal energy. So essentially, atoms are everything. Atoms are everywhere. So atoms are absolutely everywhere. Got electrons and neutrons. They're absolutely everywhere, okay? Like, these are these things that you can attach things onto. But it's understanding that you can attract these things to you, but you have to be aware of them. So you'll be more likely to recognize and see, attract, and absorb these things the more you are aware of things. So we spoke about with Betty with the aerial, the radio thing. So if you've got a poor radio signal, you're not going to be able to pick up certain radio stations. But the more you ascend, the more you become present, and more that you're aware about things, and the more you're aware of the radio stations you're trying to pick up, you'll pick up more of those radio stations. So if I'm making it up here, let's say I've got 1 million radio stations, my signal's really, really weak. If I'm trying to find a rock radio station, but I've got no idea I'm trying to search for a rock radio station, I'm spending my whole life trying to tune in this radio station with 5 channels. But I've got a million that I can have access to. But the more that I open my awareness to, actually, I want to find a rock radio station. I go from 5 to 25, then 35, then 100, then 400, then 5. I'm like, wow, there's all these rock radio stations that I didn't have a clue were even there. That's how this game works, and it sounds so bizarre. I hope that analogy works. Again, these analogies I'm just literally coming off the fly here. But again, listen to what we're talking about. It's the law of attraction. The law of attraction is bringing these things to you. That is what this is. People talk about the law of attraction. People don't understand the law of attraction, how it works. This is how it is. If you didn't listen to the Betty episode, please go back and listen to that. Go back and listen, pay attention, and take some notes potentially, because that is the law of attraction. That's how it works. And I'm so passionate about this. Again, episode number 30 was with, what's his name? Law of Attraction episode. Michael Auger, that's the one. I forgot his name then. Michael Auger, episode number 30. If you want to understand the law of attraction, my advice is, if this is the first time you listen to this podcast, once you get to the end of this episode, go back and listen to episode number 30 with Michael Auger. Again, this is before Mikey came into my life. So it's just audio. Listen to that. That's on the law of attraction. And then go and listen to Betty. It's the same thing. It's the exact same thing. That's what we're talking about here. Only things that are necessary for our growth will reach us. It's important to understand that. Only things that are necessary for our growth will reach us if we choose to accept it. And even all the tough experiences that we have, they come to us for our benefits, but it doesn't mean it's easy. So even though these experiences are coming at us and they're for our benefit, it's not easy. It's just like a game of Mario. Remember the game Mario back in the day with the Game Boy? Remember that? Yeah, big time. So you do these tasks, and you're like, oh wow, and you get stuck on like level 10. And you're like, wow, so you keep doing it again. You then learn the lessons of how to win that level. You climb that little flagpole, then guess what? The next level's there, and it's harder. That is how life works. Life is always going to be difficult, whether you choose to accept that or not. No one has a perfect life. You just get better and you just level up. The more you can understand and recover from setbacks, that is when you win. Like Tony Robbins said, game over. You've won the game of Mario. If you think each level is going to be easier, you're going to be disappointed over and over and over again. But guess what? Once you know that once you complete that level of Mario, you go up to the next level, but you know it's going to be harder, guess what? You get excited for the challenge. You get excited for the challenge. That is what life is all about. We don't see it this way. We think, oh my God, maybe if I do this level, it's going to get easier. No, it does not get easier. You get better. You get better and better and better. And life will try and throw you more challenging things. It throws you more challenging things because it knows you can now handle it. But again, it can be exhausting. It can be tiring. So again, don't allow yourself to get into that negative headspace when life does throw you things and it becomes too much. Because it happens to all of us. That's why me and Mikey, that thing about understanding it's a journey. It is a journey. It gets too much for all of us. Even your Tony Robbins. I don't care what that man says. I know he still has bad days. He cannot convince me otherwise. The thing is, his ability to actually tune it back in, and the people he surrounds himself with, it probably isn't a bad day. It's probably a bad minute because we've got someone around him that basically, like Tony, his wife, for example, again, meant to be an absolutely incredible woman, probably knocks him out of it straight away. But again, you still have these things like life. You can't go through life expecting it to all be difficult, to all be perfect. Difficulties and obstacles will keep coming at us until we absorb their wisdom or lessons, and then we grow from them. So again, that pain plus reflection equals progress. Very, very powerful. And again, we gain exactly enough strength to match the effort required to overcome these difficulties. Just like in the gym. If you're lifting, let's go on a leg press, for example, you're lifting 100 kilograms, you don't gain the strength to lift 500 kilograms. You gain the strength to lift 100 kilograms. You then add more on, then it's 110, 120, 130. You gain the skills to match the effort that you need to overcome that obstacle, to overcome that difficulty. And just like, again, let's use a Mario example. Every single level is a new boss, there's a new thing that comes out, there's a new thing, new challenge. You then gain that experience. Then on the next level, that thing you've learned is still there. They've then added something new in. I've never used this Mario example. It's absolutely brilliant, isn't it? I'm going to keep using this again. I'm more like, yes, go here again. Yes, keep going. Absolutely brilliant. I'm like, yes, keep using it. So essentially, in summary of this whole thing here, like the law of growth says that for every seed planted, a flower or harvest will be received. Or, on a more scientific perspective, for every cause, there must be an equal effect. We reap what we sow. So just understand here, like in life, like I said with the Mario analogy again, like put the effort into each level. Don't just go through the levels. Like each level, be like, right, what's the new lesson here? There's always something. Always ask yourself, how have I grown today? So again, I get my clients in the evening to reflect. What have you learned today? What is something that you've learned? Because you will have learned something, even if it's something so small. So I'm trying to think what I've learned today already. Let me think what I've learned today. What have I learned today? That I need to get more soundproofing for this office. So again, interesting, I didn't know that, but now I do know. So something that I've learned. And the lighting thing as well. So that's a very good point, actually. So also something else I learned on this photo shoot, the photographer has this amazing studio, and in the middle of it there's a massive glass strip, and the sun comes in, and it's absolutely incredible. But as Mikey was saying on the studio right now, basically because we've got a big glass door, the lighting's not consistent. And I basically turned to Mikey and said, oh, well actually, this photographer has basically got floodlights around his studio, like literally all dotted around. Same kind of lights I use here, but there's lots of them. So basically says when the sun comes in and it overpowers the normal lights he uses, he flicks these floodlight things on, and then that overpowers the light of the sun to keep it as a neutral thing. So again, that's something I learned today. Now, again, it's having these little things. So if you just write yourself these little questions, I've said this before in the morning, that's why I've got these mugs as well. So the mugs here, I've got the gratitude at the bottom of them. So I've had them made. They're on the Primal Project website, primalproject.co.uk, shameless plug. But again, there's left-handed mugs. So if you're looking on the camera, it's a left-handed mug because it tells you the gratitudes. So every morning you have your cup of coffee, it then says the gratitudes. So you can ask yourself the three things here, like what am I grateful for in my life? What can I get excited about today? I can make today amazing how? And who can I connect with today? So again, these little things here, but then you do the same thing in the evening. You have a reflection in the evening. So you have your reflection in the morning, your daily gratitudes. But what about the evening? Just ask yourself, what have I learned today? So when you're doing your gratitudes, three things you're grateful for, whatever it is, like just reflecting on the day before you go to bed, just ask yourself, what have I learned today? Because then again, what you're doing, you're using the brain, you're using the reticular activating system. Where's your attention going? Your attention is going on what have I learned today? Your brain's like, this person wants me to tell them opportunities to grow. They want me to pick up these little lessons. So then you're going to go through your life, be like, that's a nice, cool thing that I've learned. So again, I learned something about megalodons earlier on again as well, about the size of the megalodon. Again, that was incredible. So I learned that they're actually not as big as the big blue whale, but I thought they were, only from that movie with Jason Statham, which is terrible. Do not watch it. But yeah, honestly, I hope this episode's helped with law of growth. This is something that's really, really helped me, which is why me and Mikey have been talking about this sort of stuff recently when it comes to the going back over again, the positivity paradox, and obviously understanding it's a journey, because I know a lot of people are struggling right now. There's a lot of uncertainty still in the world that's happening. So my whole thing is if I can just arm you with these tools, hopefully you don't need them right now. Hopefully your life is absolutely amazing. And again, I really hope it is. But my whole thing is you never know when your next turn's going to happen. So if you've got these podcast episodes to fall back on, so you listen to this, maybe it doesn't apply now, but maybe in 6 months' time, like, listen to an episode on this, and you can just listen back, and I can then give this information like it's been given to me. Because again, there's one podcast in particular, saved my life. Listen to that. Two podcasts helped save my life. So that's what I'm trying to do here, just pass on this information, pass on this knowledge. I absolutely love you guys. See you next week.